Oh, here we go. Metcalf, baby. Yes, come on. Yes, yes. Wait, what? What just happened? I hate fantasy football. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame with your hosts, Pierre Camus and Chris Mangano. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm Chris Mangano, and today I am telling you whose stock is rising and who you can trust, and whose stock is falling and who you might need to be extremely worried about. Now, before we jump into it today, I want to make sure you understand this is not a waiver wire column. Some of these guys are highly owned. You might have had them on your bench. You might be starting them, and you might be wondering, can I trust this guy or can I not trust this guy? So this is not a waiver wire column. I'm not going to talk about one-hit wonders who, happen to have a monster week and aren't going to do anything the rest of the year. I'm talking about guys who you may, like I said, have on your bench and you may be thinking about starting them, or they may be in your starting lineup and you may be thinking about sitting them. So that's the goal of this, is to help you figure out which guys can help you the rest of the way and which guys you may need to either bench or maybe cut ties with completely. So let's jump into it. Let's start with our risers, and we're going to go out to Cincinnati for this guy, and that's Tyler Boyd, who you probably drafted as your wide receiver 3, maybe your wide receiver 4 if you went wide receiver heavy in the early rounds. But regardless, after week 1, you may not have been feeling too great. Burrow was only really looking at A.J. Green and C.J. Uzomah. But over the last 2 games, he has 21 targets, 8 2 weeks ago, 13 this past week, a touchdown in each game. It seems like Burrow is trusting him more and more. Uzomah not being there certainly helps. I think you can start locking Tyler Boyd in as a weekly wide receiver 2 with plenty of upside. You can feel great about him every single week. So if he's a guy that maybe you've been, benching him for another wide receiver, or you've been nervous about, you don't have to be nervous about him anymore. He looks great and he looks ready to roll. Put him in your lineup every single week. Now let's head out to Jacksonville for our undrafted free agent, everybody's favorite, the running back, James Robinson. Man, has he looked good. And he's 100% their every down back. And he's got a great upcoming schedule. He gets Cincinnati this week, Houston next week, and then Detroit before they head to the bye. You can lock him in with confidence as a running back 2 every single week in every single one of those matchups. These aren't games where Jacksonville should be way behind, with the exception of maybe Detroit, but that Detroit run defense is so bad that it doesn't matter. He's got plenty of upside in all these weeks. So if you're struggling at that RB2 spot, like I know a lot of people are with injuries and everything, and you picked up James Robinson maybe before the season or after week 1, you can start feeling good about locking him in as a running back 2 every single week. Sticking with the running backs, let's go out to LA, the Rams. This is one of those, week 1, it was Malcolm Brown. Everybody's waiting for Cam Akers to take over, but he's been battling that rib injury. And the last 2 weeks, it's been Darrell Henderson. And, man, he looked great this last week against Buffalo. He's for sure taken over this backfield. He got 21 of the 28 running back touches in week 3. And there's no reason that should change. He's looked way better than Malcolm Brown. Not really sure when Cam Akers is going to be back or what his role will be. But as long as Akers is out, Darrell Henderson is another guy I think you can just lock in as a running back 2 every single week. And feel very good about it. Sticking with the running backs, let's head out to New England. This is a backfield where a lot of times we say, oh, you never know what to do with the New England backfield. Stay away from this backfield. But there's a guy emerging who looks like he could be a dangerous weapon for Cam Newton as far as passing out of the backfield, and that's Rex Burkhead. 2 weeks ago, he had 4 catches for 47 yards on 6 targets with James White out due to the passing of his father and his mother's situation, which we're all praying for you, James White. Hope you're doing okay. I hope you and your family are doing okay. But back to Burkhead, like I said, 2 weeks ago, 4 catches for 47 yards on 6 targets. But then this last week, he had 7 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown through the air on 10 targets. Plus, he added 2 more rushing touchdowns on the ground. We have no idea when James White will be back. So for as long as James White is out, Rex Burkhead looks like a solid flex play in PPR leagues with plenty of upside. You can roll him out with confidence. And finally, we're going to end with one more rising wide receiver out there in Minnesota. the rookie Justin Jefferson. We were expecting this to happen. It's been slowly building up, and finally, week 3, he had his breakout: 7 catches, 175 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. He's clearly in the Diggs role now, but before you say, oh, maybe this is just a one-hit wonder, yeah, I'm not going to expect him to go for 7, 175, and 1 every week. But he only ran 3 less routes than Adam Thielen, so he clearly looks like he's in that Diggs role. He's clearly the wide receiver 2. Obviously, this is a lower volume offense, so he's not going to give you these boom weeks every week. But I think you can trust him as a solid wide receiver 3 every single week, who gives you upside. And he could start trending into that wide receiver 2 range. So if you got Justin Jefferson, feel good about it. If not, grab him off your waivers this week, and you can start rolling him out as a weekly wide receiver 3. So those are our risers. Let's get into our fallers. We got some big names in the faller category. So definitely, you're going to want to pay attention to this one. Let's start with the obvious one. That's Mitch Trubisky. Now, if you're in a 1 QB league, this probably doesn't affect you much. But for those of you in Superflex 2 QB leagues, yeah, he got benched about midway. I think it was right. I think when they came out of halftime, it was Nick Foles, if I'm not mistaken. But he got benched for Nick Foles. Nick Foles looked pretty good. He's already been declared the starter for week 4. Trubisky obviously can't be started. Now, if you're in a Superflex or 2 QB league, I would not drop Mitch Trubisky because, Foles can get benched just as easily as Trubisky did. So certainly don't drop him if you're in that kind of format, but obviously you're not going to be starting him anytime soon. Now let's go out to Cleveland for one of the biggest name wide receivers in the game who's been a little underwhelming for quite a while now, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. Got off to a rough start week 1, bounced back with a big Thursday night football game. But here's the issue with Odell and why I have him as a faller. Didn't have a great week 3. He's only gotten 6 targets. Only gotten 6 targets in each of the last 2 games. 6 targets isn't going to get it done. This is an offense that wants to run the ball. He's yet to top 80 yards on the season. I'd be looking to move Odell Beckham while he still has some value. It looks like he's not going to be anything more than like a wide receiver 3 with some weekly upside. So I'd be looking to move Odell if I could. If there's somebody in your league who still views him as that elite wide receiver, and I'm not saying Odell's not an elite wide receiver. It's just in this situation, in this offense, there's just not enough volume. 6 targets is just not going to be enough to get it done. Staying in that division, actually, let's stay with the wide receivers here. Let's go out of Indianapolis, and that's T.Y. Hilton. A lot of people thought he'd be a value, thought he'd be a solid wide receiver 2 with Phillip Rivers there. I was a little nervous about T.Y. before the season just because I didn't think his game really fit with Phillip Rivers, and it doesn't seem like it fits at all. He's only had 8 total targets in the last 2 games and only 10 catches on the entire season. Colts, that defense is great. They're going to be playing ahead a lot. They're going to be running the ball a lot. They have the second most running back touches in the NFL as far as percentage of touches of any team in the NFL so far, and I don't see that changing. I can't view T.Y. Hilton as anything more than a wide receiver 3. Even that may be high, and the problem is he does not have a massive ceiling, so you're not really getting a lot from T.Y. Hilton. I'd be okay benching T.Y. Hilton for the foreseeable future. Now let's talk about some big running backs, and let's go out to Cincy and start with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was a first rounder, early second round ADP pick. A lot of people had high hopes for Joe Mixon. Has not been a great start for Joe Mixon. On the plus side, he's gotten 52 of the 54 running back attempts for the Bengals, but he's only gotten 9 of the 24 targets as Gio Bernard has been getting most of the passing game work. That is not good for Mixon's upside. Again, game script has been against him, right? The O-line hasn't been as good as advertised. They've been playing from behind a lot, which, has kind of game scripted him out. I don't think you can view him more as a running back 2 at this point, but I still think better days are ahead. Again, when you're getting the bulk of the attempts and you're getting an okay amount of targets, better days are ahead. But right now, you can't be looking at Joe Mixon as your every week running back 1 who's going to win you weeks. You got to look at him more as an RB2 with weekly upside. And then finally, let's go out to Arizona, another highly drafted guy. He was He was a second rounder, sometimes early second rounder, and that's Kenyan Drake. Has not been getting it done for you. On the plus side, he's had 16, 20, and 18 carries in each of the first 3 games. On the downside, he's only had 5 total targets on the year. That's pacing for under 30 targets on the season. That is not going to get it done for a second round running back, especially if he's not, running for 100 yards and scoring a bunch of touchdowns. Now, the good news for Kenyan Drake is they have Carolina this week, who so far has been destroyed by Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, and Austin Eckler. So I expect Kenyan Drake to have a really big week 4, but I'm down on him the rest of the season. If he's not going to get work in the passing game, his value is going to be really, really capped. So if I had Kenyan Drake, what I would be doing and what I suggest you do if you have Kenyan Drake is let him go off this week against Carolina and then start trying to ship him in, before week 5 while he still has some value, while there's people out there who say, hey, he was a second round draft pick. He just got to a slow start. He looked good against Carolina. Maybe this is the turning point, but it's not the turning point. It's just an insanely good matchup where all running backs feast against Carolina. So, yeah, let him feast this week. Let him help you win your week here in week 4, and then look to try to move him. There you go, guys. Risers and fallers. I want to know, let me know in the comments who are some guys you think are rising or falling, or who are some guys that you have on your roster but you're not sure if you should play them, or some guys that have been killing you every week and you're not sure if you should bench them. Comment below and I'll help you out with that. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel for all our amazing content we're bringing you every single week, helping you with your start-sit decisions, your waiver wire, everything you need to win and dominate your fantasy league. All right, guys, I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.